Maya Akai. Welcome to the video show.
Mark, it's been a minute, maybe 4 or 5
I
years
can't
since I was
I
on the
can't
show?
remember. The years go by fast on the audio show. So I brought you on the show to ask you, what is on your mind?
Gosh, I would kinda say, "What isn't on my mind?" as a therapist? Because what's on everyone else's mind tends to somehow end up on my mind, because, that's how therapy works. One of the things that I have really focused on, especially the end of 2025 and coming into 2026, was to give people tools because I actually really want to be the person who normalizes the conversation about mental wellness. We have to get past the stigma and the idea that somehow if you seek help, there's something that's not like something you should do. You should be able to manage it on your own or have the courage. But it's interesting because in no other area of our life, often when people truly need help in some respects, do they avoid it. Sometimes. So, for instance, if you're having a health issue, you'll go see a doctor, right, to figure out what's going on. Mind you, some people often wait a little too long before they go to the doctor, and then they're highly frustrated, right? If you decided you've got this fitness goal and you want to get in shape and you want to lose weight, you may enlist the help of a nutritionist or even, a personal trainer. A therapist is actually the same thing. Imagine having a space in your life where this person is 100% about you. And in that space, you can drop anything you want without judgment. And you can be yourself authentically and work through problems without having to necessarily share it with your family or your friends. And you can work through things and know it's a space that's designed for you and have your best interests at heart. That's actually what therapy is. I don't know what people think it is, but it isn't about being crazy. It's about being competent and courageous enough to say, I need help and I'm going to start.
Well, I know I'm cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, but let's not go there. I really get sad in a way when I hear about children committing suicide. Young people, teenagers, and all different ages, but definitely teenagers and children. I'm like, what is that all about? Why do you think? I mean, I don't want to get too depressing because everybody gets depressed or whatnot. But I hope nobody gets that depressed and doesn't have anybody to talk to. So why do people take their okay? Why don't they go get help? Why don't they go get help, or they don't know who to ask for help? Why people commit suicide and go through all these dramas?
The thing about when people decide that the only option left for them is to end their life, it's usually a culmination of many things. It could have been that perhaps they have sought help and didn't get what they need, or maybe they didn't seek help in the right place. Um, Often when people get to that point, I will tell you this, is they believe there is no real solution to the problem they're experiencing. They think there is no answer, there is no way out, and the only way out would be to end their life. So regardless if they've sought help, if they have not sought help, they reach that point of no return of believing there is nothing worth living for anymore. And you people arrive to that point, Mark, for different reasons. Abuse, whether it be emotional, mental, long term abuse. No one just decides to end their life because it's a wishy-washy thing. It's usually a culmination of a lot of negative experiences that have left them feeling their back is against the wall and there's nothing they can do to make it better. And they believe that is their only out. And even children begin to arrive at that place and teenagers.
And then you have people who are just don't have an extreme issue, if you will, but we human beings, some of us overeat, we overdrink, we overindulge, we watch too much TV and too much internet and whatnot. We have all these little problems, so we're not trying to, you know, we're not going to the extreme, but we are slowly, cutting ourselves with 1,000 cuts, if you know what I mean.
Mhm. One of the things that's really interesting, and if you're within my respective age group, I'm 54. Well, I'm sorry, I'll be 54 next Friday. So I'm still holding on to 53 for like another week. But with that being said, it's really interesting how people will just internalize so much and never stop to pause to do resources. So when I say that I want to begin to empower people, but give them tools. So my podcast I do, which is Maya, My Ambition, Your Ambition, really focuses on giving people empowerment tools. For instance, last week the topic was the economy of self. And it's a philosophy that I have developed for me that I share with people to help them to again be able to frame their life in a way to understand, do you see why you are struggling? What people don't realize is that you have a limited amount of emotional and mental or resources. I call it the economy itself because an economy within its own right, financially, is about the management of assets coming in and out of your economic system. And so I know when you talk money to people, they can instantly kind of connect with money. So I created the concept around the idea of money because it's really the same concept. So the economy of self says this: one, you have limited assets available to you. You only have so much emotional and mental energy. You can very easily time fatigue. The key thing is being able to identify which your assets are. That's the first thing. What are they emotionally? What are they mentally? What are they financially? What are they spiritually? How much of things do you actually have? Then you have to think about, how do I allocate those resources? So, am I pouring my time and energy and emotion into a relationship, into my family, into my job? Often, the one thing or place people aren't pouring their assets are back into themselves, which is often a problem. If you find yourself allocating your resources to places, but there is no return on investment, you need to stop and think about, why am I allocating a resource to something that yields nothing for me? Now, mind you, all things you allocate your resources to are not going to give you an equal yield. You have to judge the benefit. For instance, if you are an altruistic person and you love to volunteer, you might go to the animal shelter, once a week. You might just get joy from that and nothing more. But that is something that replenishes you, and it's okay. So you got to look and say, as I allocate these resources into these different areas, people, places, and things, what do they give me back? Is it really truly a good return on investment? Because what you want to see in your life is what we refer when money grows. We want to see that capital gains. We want to see personal growth and gains from the relationships that you navigate and put your assets into. So the problem is, if you keep allocating your resources out and you get very little coming in, that's called you're entering into a recession. So there is some return, but it isn't equaling the output of what you're putting in. And the deficit gets greater when you're allocating resources and there's no return. And that's when you fall into a depression. Hence, money works the same way. Everyone understands what a depression is. I hope they do. And if not, I will do some research on this. But you enter into a recession or depression because you've now expended all of your resources and assets and you have no return, no growth. And here you are, flat with nothing. So now you have to find other ways to begin to rebuild your assets, focus on self care. So, interesting enough, this week's podcast is about understanding the importance and purpose of self preservation. Because when you understand this, the whole economy of self makes sense of how you protect those assets and make sure you get the most of where you put them.
I want to extend the show, but I promise I'll keep it short. Can I bring you back at some point? Can you
To
come
bring you
back?
back, I would absolutely come back because the thing is, I want to reach more people. I want to hear more people to hear this message. I'm more than happy to come back and talk about this more with you.
Well,
Yes.
let's end this podcast the way I used to do my old audio podcast. First, I'm going to thank you for being my guest, and now take a second, I don't know, a minute or so, whatever, at least less than a minute, whatever, to just end the podcast. Talk directly to those people who are really having some issues, and I think they can get over it or just go beyond it. Go right ahead.
I will tell you, look at the world around you to find inspiration. The sun will always rise and set every day, and so will the moon. A flower will bloom with ever looking at the other flowers to figure out how they are blooming. Every person internally has amazing strength and beauty and even resilience. But if you have walked too far and have never been able to feel that you can stand 10 toes down on your own, what you have to come to understand is it takes courage to ask for help. And that's where the growth goes. And you want to seek help in the right places. And hence, this is why I always say, often your family and friends are not the best place to place something that you really need to work on, and that's why you would seek out therapy so that you can have a person where you can be honest, transparent, and authentic and not feel like you have to apologize for how you feel. It takes courage, but each and every one of us have it.